Yes, and we are back here on Issues and Answers Friday. Oh man, it is 8:42 in the PM. 8:42 in the PM here on December 22nd, 2023. That means Christmas is only in like 2.5 days. So I got another early Christmas present this week. A recent study published in the Journal of Medical Ethics has come out with a new study. Props to the side post where a really good site that posts a lot of stuff about different psychological, a lot of studies about psychology and health and things like that. But they actually shine the light on a new study published in the Journal of Medical Ethics that aimed to investigate whether the negative sentiments directed towards the unvaccinated can be considered a form of scapegoating. Maja Grasso, an assistant professor at the University of Groningen, says that my colleagues and I have been studying the social divisions surrounding COVID-19 for some time. We have noticed that much of the existing research at the time focused on conflicts originating from people who discount COVID-19, believe in conspiracy theories, and generally undervalue the threat of the virus. We replicated many of those patterns in our own research as well. She said, however, what we found to be missing was an address to the misinformation and the consequences stemming from overestimating the threat. Consider, for instance, how in 2020, more than 30% of Americans believed that a COVID infection led to a 50% chance of hospitalization. It never did. Nor was there ever evidence to suggest that it might. Left-leaning individuals tended to overestimate COVID harms to a greater degree than conservatives. So what we saw was liberals overestimated COVID, conservatives underestimated COVID, and so in both cases you end up with misinformation and in some instances disinformation. Back to Ms. Grasso. Any miscalibration of risk may lead to inappropriate responses, misuse of resources, and social divisions, all of which can further compromise lives and livelihoods. Therefore, with this specific study, we wanted to see whether negative sentiments towards the unvaccinated could, in part, be explained by dismissing risk factors that would challenge the extent to which the unvaccinated are blamed. Now, the research comprised 2 studies that utilized fictional characters with varying risk profiles and vaccination statuses to gauge public perceptions. In study 1, participants were asked to evaluate 4 fictional characters, 2 low-risk individuals, a young girl named Katie, who's 21, and a man named Mark, who's 38, neither of which have comorbidities, and 2 high-risk individuals, Mary, 78, with no comorbidities, and Richard, 53, with severe comorbidities. The characters' vaccination statuses were manipulated, with each character being either fully vaccinated, unvaccinated, or unvaccinated but having fully recovered from a previous COVID-19 infection. Participants rated the characters' responsibility for various pandemic-related consequences and estimated their likelihood of hospitalization, death, and recovery. The results of Study 1, based on 570 American residents, revealed that people were more likely to scapegoat the unvaccinated or unvaccinated recovered characters compared to the vaccinated characters, regardless of the characters' risk profiles. In particular, the participants believed that unvaccinated individuals were responsible for the overwhelmed healthcare system, to be blamed for the effects of hospital staff shortages, at fault for COVID-19 deaths and hospitalization, and guilty of severely jeopardizing his or her community's public health. Participants also overestimated the chances of low-risk characters experiencing severe illness, death, and failure to recover from COVID-19, irrespective of their vaccination status. This suggests that the blame directed towards the unvaccinated may be disproportionate to their actual risk. Moreover, the study found that liberals were more likely to scapegoat the unvaccinated characters, including those who were unvaccinated but had recovered from COVID-19. In contrast, conservatives were less likely to scapegoat all characters regardless of their vaccination status. In study 2, participants evaluated a 28-year-old low-risk male character who was either unvaccinated but had recovered from COVID in May 2001 or had received 2 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine in May 2021. The study aimed to determine if people were more likely to blame the unvaccinated character even when compared to a vaccinated individual who had not been receiving the booster shot. The same measure used in study 1 were employed with extended scapegoating assessment. The results of study 2 indicated that people were more likely to blame the unvaccinated but recovered character. This finding aligned with the political ideology effects observed in study 1, with liberals more inclined to scapegoat the unvaccinated recovered character compared to conservatives. The findings of the 2 studies suggest that negative sentiments directed towards the unvaccinated during the COVID-19 pandemic may indeed be a form of scapegoating instead of a justified response to a perceived public threat. Now, one of the doctors said it conveyed a classic timeless message. People should be aware that good intentions can run awry. Grasso said, we encourage everyone to consider that misinformation can come from many forms and many sources, just as undervaluing the threat can be damaging to public health, lives, and resources. Vastly overestimating the COVID-19 threat can also create pressures that lead to poor policy, decisions, diversion of resources, and unwarranted blame of individuals who may not be at fault. Whew. We focus solely on individuals' general and low-level perceptions of blame. We did not examine the more severe sentiments that have occasionally been prominent in the media. There is much more research that needs to be done on risk misperceptions that stem from both underestimating health threats, but also severely overestimating them as well. Our own political tribe can also be a source of misinformation, yet we may be less adept at recognizing it. The researcher added, this study, for anybody who wants to Google it, read it, blaming the unvaccinated during the COVID-19 pandemic, the roles of political ideology and risk perceptions in the USA. Once again, that is blaming the unvaccinated during the COVID-19 pandemic, the roles of political ideology and risk perceptions in the United States, which was authored by Maja Grasso, Carl Aquino, Fan Xuan Chen, and Kevin Bardash. You can all look that up. And again, shout out to Side Post for giving us that article. So thank you, God. Hallelujah. Woo. Hallelujah. 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 Yes. Whew. Man, I've been saying that for 2 years. Look, COVID was an extremely serious thing. I know about 6 people who died of COVID. Okay? Virtually all of them were older people with comorbidities. I don't know any young people who died of COVID personally, but I'm sure there were a few. But overall, not too many young people died of COVID. Like the average age of a COVID death patient is like 75 or something. The perception that we needed to force millions of young people to get the vaccine to prevent death is complete nonsense. And thankfully, you have countries like Sweden and much of Western Europe that has stopped forcing their young people to get shot up with an experimental vaccine. I mean, look, ultimately, I believe people have choice in a free country. I support everybody who I know who is a high-risk individual, people who are elderly, who have comorbidities. They all got vaxxed, and I think that is great, okay, because for them, the risks are probably death. But 22-year-olds, forcing 22-year-olds, completely healthy 22-year-olds to be vaxxed in order to go to college or forcing it on school children, that was always based on something very dubious, okay? Overwhelmingly, young people, and we know this because early in the pandemic, Sweden they never closed their schools. They never closed their schools. Kids went to school the entire time during COVID. No deaths. None. COVID was always a disease that attacked the elderly and people who have severe comorbidities. That is who we should have protected. That is what the Great Barrington Declaration, anybody should look that up. Google that, the Great Barrington Declaration. Look that up. That's what it has always said. Protect the vulnerable. The elderly and people who are vulnerable, let everybody else live their lives. And it was absolutely criminal that our government and institutions forced completely healthy young people to be vaccinated if they did not want to be. Now, I'm, like I said, I give a big shout out to here WLTH, because a lot of people just had to quit their jobs and just had to just quit wherever. At least here, they just said, if you wear a mask, you're good. And so I did that, and I respected that, which is why on every show up until May, you can see me wearing a mask, in which until the end of the emergency when President Biden officially ended the COVID pandemic measures in May. But before that, I had to wear a mask. But a lot of people had their kids taken away from them. They lost their jobs. They were scapegoated. And as this study shows, it was wrongfully. I got to get this quick call real quick. I got to get out of here. Only got 5 minutes left. Hello, caller.
Hey, Scott, I told you I was going to call you back.
Yes, call me back.
All right, listen, let me tell you something. I'm not going to scapegoat you. I'm going to go scape you. Okay, I'm going to go back the opposite way. When the barber takes the razor and he go the opposite way and you break out in razor bumps, well, I'm finna break you out, buddy. Listen here. All right, now, scientists don't sit around with their thumb in their mouth like so many other people do. They are right now trying to discover the next drug for the next variant that will be an outbreak of that.
Or creating it. Okay? Or creating it.
No, they're not. Now, look, give them some credit. Now, you know what sickle cell is. They gave hope to the hopeless, okay? Give them credit for that, too.
I did last week.
Wait a minute. They had been working on that vaccine for decades, okay? Now, when we talk about when we talk about COVID, I know people that are young didn't have no underlying health problems. Now, this is what I'm talking about. See, now you owe apologies because you know what?
Yes, I am.
You named off those people. We were writing them down. There's going to be some lawsuits come in. Now, Ben Crump is pretty heavy. Might even bring him in, but I know other lawyers just as heavy as he is, okay? Now, let me tell you, they don't know, okay? These bodies can be exhumed because you know why? We played it safe. We did not have them in, when they go and they put them in the oven, we didn't have that.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have that then, okay?
Mm-hmm.
What we did, they were buried, okay? So their body could be exhumed, okay? so that if you get them exhumed, they can run tests. These were young people. There were 2 young people. There were 2 old people that I know, okay? And then when you say and buy into that, now I'm going to tell you something, young man. You mentioned Russia. You playing Russia.
I did not bring up. I didn't bring up Russia at all. I didn't bring up Russia at all.
I'm just using Russia as a metaphor and saying you're playing Russian roulette with your life.
I never said anything about Russia. 70% of all U.S. COVID deaths were 70 years or above. 70%.
I said you're playing Russian roulette. I didn't say you mentioned Russia.
Oh.
I said I use it as a metaphor. Okay. I didn't say Russian roulette. Okay. That's what you're playing when you run around out here where this virus is out here. Okay. You don't know what underlying problem that you have. Just like LeBron James didn't know his son had that problem that he had. If he would have got COVID, maybe he would have succumbed to it.
He probably already had it. Everybody's going to catch COVID. That's the point. Everybody's going to catch it.
Everybody's not going to catch it.
Yes, they are.
Listen, I'm going to tell you something. When you work in a plant around 100 people, okay, and you don't catch COVID, and you got someone else that they do, they might go out bar hopping. They might go out tricking. That's their thing. They might be around somebody that have it. If you practice hygiene, your hands, your mask, your vaccination, I'm not telling you to go get it. I'm just telling you, you got parents that's over 60. By you going out playing Russian roulette with your own life, you could bring it home to your parents or your grandparents.
The vaccine doesn't stop anybody from catching it. The vaccine doesn't stop you from catching it.
You know, no, it don't stop you 100%.
It never stopped anybody from catching it.
It gives you some measure of protection, okay?
How? How does it stop you from catching it?
I'm going to tell you something.
How did it stop? Who did it stop from catching it? I'm going to tell you something real quick. The NBA, when they came back from COVID break, they all had to get vaccinated. The entire Chicago Bulls roster caught COVID after being double vaccinated. The entire roster.
That's the Chicago
Bulls. The NFL. The NFL. These are the healthiest men on the planet. The NFL forced thousands of men to get vaccinated. And they had so many outbreaks of hundreds of players testing positive for COVID that they literally stopped testing.
Did LeBron James ever get it?
Maybe. I think he did.
No, he didn't.
Let me check. I'm pretty sure LeBron did come in contact.
The players that you named, they go out clubbing. When you go out tricking in a club,
the entire Bulls roster. The entire Bulls roster.
Yeah, right. You don't have one guy in the locker room. How do you know they didn't go out as a crew, go out partying, okay? You don't know that. When they go out high rollers go out together, okay? And when they go out, you don't know when they went out, if they went out as a crew, if they went out as one, you don't know that, okay? I don't know if LeBron James ever had COVID. I never heard him say he did. Plenty of people, when they catch that ball, they call. Now, he had the flu, but he didn't have COVID, okay? So, like I say, you could be reckless, young man.
Well, LeBron compared it to the COVID.
You think about your parents. Hey, thank you. You have a good day, man.
All right. You too, brother. Evening, man. All right. Like I said, I think misinformation in both sides, underestimating, overestimating was a bad thing, obviously. Lots of people died, especially in 2020. The first wave of COVID was no joke. I mean, you guys want some real irony. I'm the only person here at the station, I think, who's never tested positive for COVID. And because of my stance, I had to get tested weekly. I had to get tested about 100 times in the past 2 years. Only person at the whole station never tested positive. Everybody else who got vaccinated, including people I work directly with, who got vaccinated, got double vaxxed, they all caught COVID. So I'm just saying, misinformation in either direction ain't a good thing. You don't want to downplay the virus to the point where people don't think it's serious at all, but at the same time, you do not want to just out and out lie to people and tell people that if they get vaccinated, they won't catch it. That's what Fauci said at first. That's what Joe Biden said. That's what Rachel Maddow said. You guys know this. I've played the clips of them saying it on the show a lot. So I don't support either side, and definitely the unvaccinated. Those of us who are unvaccinated are scapegoated because, again, the vaccine never stopped you from catching it. Ask the Chicago Bulls. Ask the entirety of the NFL. They all caught it in spite of being vaccinated regardless. Okay, folks, I want to wish you all a happy Christmas. I can't wait to eat. That's what I'm looking forward to. But before I let you guys go, because we're running late here, it's 9 o'clock. I don't want Marion Williams to come in here with the 2x4. I just want to say rest in peace to another brilliant, brilliant musician who passed away this week. I don't know if you guys know anything about this man, but he was a brilliant, brilliant brother. His name was Amp Fiddler from Detroit. He played with Parliament Funkadelic, the late, great Jay Dilla. He passed away. He played keyboards for so many people, worked with Prince, worked with Sly and Robbie, Jamiroquai, Fishbone, Maxwell. I mean, this brother was heavy. So, in this Christmas season, I want to say goodbye to him. Rest in peace to him. This is him with Heaven. Rest in peace, Amp Fiddler. This is Heaven. I'll see you guys next week. Be